Giving and receiving love is a very fundamental struggle that people have. And this is something that is very universal. In order to be a master of giving and receiving love, you need to actually heal your mind. You need to break down the defenses that are destroying that flow of energy. See, the flow of love is an energy that moves between the giver and the receiver. And we basically participate in this. And if we want to participate in it, properly, we need to actually look into how we push it away and how we kind of mess up this flow of energy. So there's a lot of fears that we have, like the fear of vulnerability, the fear of being seen, unhealed wounds. All these things work to kind of close us down, to keep our bodies tense, to contract us. That's what the ego does. It contracts and it holds on and it grips tightly for defensive purposes. It wants to control. It wants to always be secured and defensive. It doesn't want to open up and surrender and to let go of control, because that involves risk. And when we experience risk, we can get hurt. Something can go wrong. Something bad can happen. Our mind looks for a billion reasons to not do that, and it does that subconsciously. And unfortunately, when we're in that state, it's not comfortable. When we're shut down, when we're defensive, when we're clinging on to control, that state itself is suffering. That state itself is a state of resistance. That state itself is a state of unnecessary suffering. It's unconscious dynamics inside of us that are perpetuating our suffering, and we don't need to remain stuck there. It's unfulfilling. So the energy flow of love is something we need to pay attention to if we want to really kind of master giving and receiving love and really opening up to it. So love is a flow of energy between the giver and the receiver, like I said. And ultimately, love involves letting go of yourself and moving into something beyond yourself. When you love someone or something, you identify with it. Your sense of who you are expands. When they are in pain, you are in pain. When they have a success, it's simultaneously your success. When you're really open and when you're not acting out of constant defensiveness and tensions and the ego, love is very natural. This energy flow is just such a natural and obvious element of experience, and to not participate in it feels extremely wrong. But when you're operating deeply from within the ego and its defensive structures, the flow of love is scary because you're kind of holding on and you're clinging for dear life and survival and security. And again, it's not very comfortable. So imagine that the flow of love is kind of like breathing in and breathing out, right? Between the giver and the receiver. It's this one continuous movement. And imagine if you kind of just held your breath and you basically never let it out. You're just kind of holding it in there and you're like defending, you're squeezing into it. And it's kind of just obviously ridiculous. That's kind of what we're doing with the flow of love. We're not really allowing the energy to circulate properly because we are too afraid and shut down. So love essentially dissolves a lot of these defensive structures, and we subconsciously recognize that. When we are engaging in the flow of love, we're surrendering our defenses, we're softening up our boundaries to expand our sense of who we are. And this is something that kind of dissolves various illusions that we have, like the illusion of self, the illusion of separation. The duality between the giver and the receiver of love itself collapse, and you're only really left in the flow of love. And this is something that, well, the ego fears. The ego really likes its separation and its controlling and its manipulating and its defenses and all this kind of stuff. So that's a massive threat to your whole self, your whole sense of who you are, right? To open up and surrender into love feels like a threat to who you are because, well, you're afraid. And if you really want to get over that, you need to realize what the fear actually is. And this is just the fear of opening up to experience. At the rock bottom of it, you're afraid of life. You're afraid of opening up to your experience. You're afraid of life itself. You're afraid of just being in the present moment and just being open to it, being able to not control everything, being able to just surrender to it and have some trust in it that, well, you're not going to die. So you fear losing control. Opening your heart feels like surrendering safety and predictability. And being seen by others, being connected to them, carries the risk of judgment, of rejection. So we're poking at a lot of your past wounds and all the kinds of wounds that we got from our ancestors. And this basically pokes, like I said, at the unhealed parts of us and the fears we have, which gets us to kind of react unconsciously and shut down. out of just pure, anticipation of, oh, if I open, I'm going to get hurt, right? We anticipate something bad is going to happen. But for the most part, it doesn't really happen. In most experiences, they're fairly neutral. Not much is actually happening. Hey, some things can be pretty bad. But in most experiences, aren't you safe to just relax and open up? So is constantly kind of being tense in your body all day, right? And pay attention to your body. Is being tense and rigid and closed and defensive in a sort of physiological way, is that worth it? Or are you just kind of defending yourself unnecessarily from absolutely nothing except the delusions of your own mind? You're just like bracing for some kind of impact, but it never really happens. So the energy as well can kind of feel overwhelming, triggering some kind of avoidance. Because if we're kind of very numb, or if we're shut down in a lot of areas that we don't recognize, that energy opens us up, which can kind of signal some alarms in our sort of nervous system. This was closed for a long time. It's activating some old wound. Oh my God, we have to open up again. It's not safe. Last time I opened up, I was 3 years old and I got rejected by my mom, and it's this terrible thing. So we basically will shut down to keep emotions quote unquote manageable. We don't feel safe, and we just kind of want to contract. Instead of opening, we we squeeze inwards, we kind of contract. So a big part of this is basically playing the human game, or being fully immersed in the story. You see, when we use something like spirituality to bypass our human experience, that's called, spiritual bypassing. And a big part of mature spiritual development is not using spirituality to ignore the ordinary human existence, to not ignore the basic stuff of life. And when we are not in tune with our experience, when we are not in contact with all dimensions of our experience, we can sense something's off. Our body contracts and it does things. Our body's intelligent. It senses that, and it tells us that via contractions and muscle tensions. So love isn't really about perfecting yourself or your partner. It's basically about dancing through life together in a smooth, harmonious way without resistance. You're moving through ordinary human life while simultaneously transcending it. You are the human being, you are the pure consciousness simultaneously. Conflicts, quirks, tenderness are all part of the play. You're able to move into each and every form effortlessly, just like how a dancer can move her body this way and then that way, and you can see that she does it with such grace. You basically become like that, but with emotion, with experience itself. You learn how to allow God or the universe to just flow through you. You let the energy of life flow through you intelligently and without resistance and with trust. So love basically is pure being, or pure existence, or just your own awareness. Your own awareness is unconditionally accepting of your experience. So there's already a part of you which just already is that. It's just been covered up with so many layers of defensiveness and trauma, wounding, egoic structures, delusions, illusions, etc. So there's kind of like a diamond at your core that's just been covered up. And in this video, I'm trying to poke at it. I'm trying to remove some of the dirt and the dust so we can kind of get to that diamond. So essentially, you give your whole heart to the human experience while simultaneously transcending it, right? Realizing that at the deepest level, you are love itself. You are pure presence itself. Your awareness right now is just unconditionally accepting of the experience. The part of you that just simply is aware, is not pushing or pulling on anything. It's just embodying experience. It's just existing, simply existing. So love involves transcending life and including it at the same time. Love involves being the human, fully embracing the story, and being beyond the story at the same time. The embrace of experience is the transcendence of experience, which is really where you find the deepest love that you're actually looking for. So if you're interested in going further, I have a bunch of books on my book list. Check them out. I'm also doing one-to-one coaching. I also have group coaching. Check those out if you're interested. If you want to go really deep, I would recommend it. Take it easy.